A question that I often receive is, which game is better? Monster Jam Steel Titans 2 or Monster Jam Showdown? The two most recent Monster Jam video games, which both have their pros and cons. So, I'm going to be comparing the two games, going over physics, graphics, truck variety, and a whole lot more. And hopefully by the end of it all, you, the viewer, will be able to make an informed decision on which game to buy. Or maybe you just want to hear me talk about some Monster Jam games. Either way, let's get on with the video. Game modes. Considering these are both Monster Jam games, Steel Titans 2 and Showdown do share quite a few game modes. Freestyle, head-to-head racing, and circuit racing are featured in both. Now, freestyle is of course the main mode for doing all kinds of different stunts, and ultimately, at the end you want to have the highest score. Now, physics and maps aside, because we will get to that later, I gotta say, I actually like Showdown's combo system a lot more. Basically, you do a stunt, you get some points for it, and if you do a unique stunt, it'll add to your multiplier. And your combo ends either when you fall over onto your roof and lose all your points, or you go a few seconds without doing a stunt. And this combo system is just lenient enough to where you can keep a combo going for a really long time if you're good enough. Comparatively, Steel Titans 2 does have a fairly similar system. However, each time your multiplier goes up, the time you have to continue your combo with another stunt goes down quite significantly. This makes getting a combo past a ×10 score near impossible, which really just limits the ceiling of how high of a combo you could get. In Showdown, you can get a huge combo going, like an 100x combo, and because the freestyle doesn't end until your combo does, you can keep going as long as you're doing stunts. But in Steel Titans 2, that's just not possible. On top of that, Showdown's leaderboards really give you an incentive to go for those high scores, which is something that Steel Titans 2 lacks. The other stadium event that both games have is head-to-head racing. I'm gonna have a little bit more to say about the racing modes later, once we start to talk about the game physics. But I will say, at least for new players, Showdown's head-to-head racing might be a bit more appealing, just because there is clear lines and smoke trails to keep you in your lane. And while in Steel Titans 2, your lane is surrounded by these arrows to kind of keep you in the right direction, it can still be a bit confusing. And to a lesser extent, the same could be said about circuit racing. I'll have a bit more to say about this one once we start talking about maps, because overall, Showdown does have much linear race courses. Now, of course, Steel Titans 2 and Showdown do have their own exclusive game modes. Waypoint racing, two-wheel skills, time destruction, and freeride are all exclusive to Steel Titans 2. Waypoint racing really takes advantage of the fact that Steel Titans 2 has an open world. Basically, you have to drive around the map collecting each waypoint in order, and whichever truck reaches the final one first, wins. Again, it can be kind of difficult to maneuver around rocks and different kind of terrains that you might experience without, tumbling over. And sometimes it can even be a bit hard to figure out where you need to go, even while looking at the map. But at least in the more simple and bright areas of the game, this can be a fun mode. Now, two-wheel skills is a mode that I'm frankly surprised isn't in Showdown. Because usually, at a real-life Monster Jam event, two-wheel skills is one of the competitions. Nonetheless, the way Steel Titans 2 presents the two-wheel skills event is different. You have to perform 2 or 3 combos, and are judged exclusively on those. The mode is basically like freestyle, except you only get to do 2 or 3 combos, which I think is a pretty fun challenge, even if it isn't what a real two-wheel skills event is like. Then we have time destruction, where a bunch of different objects are placed on the track, and your goal is to smash into all of the stuff while keeping a combo going. Each object adds to your multiplier, and given how close the objects are, you can actually rack up a pretty high combo, sometimes in the hundreds. My favorite way to play this mode is in the bonus outdoor events. In each of the game's 5 worlds, there's a bonus time destruction stage, where you're given a more linear path to go on, and there's a bunch of objects for you to aim for all the way through. To me, these specific outdoor events feel like one of the most creative and fun modes in the whole game. Not to say the stadium time destructions aren't fun, but these bonus stages are great. Freeride lets you explore 5 different open worlds the game has, including Camp Crushmore, Bark Park, Highlands, Wasteland, and Haunted Forest. Having an open world to explore in whatever monster truck you want is a huge bonus for this game. The closest thing you're gonna get to this in Showdown is the training grounds, which is basically just a little outdoor monster truck stadium. That can be fun, but certainly doesn't compare to Steel Titans 2's open world. Showdown does have 6 of its own exclusive game modes, those being Horde, Figure 8 Racing, Best Trick, Extreme Head-to-Head, Extreme Freestyles, and Boss Battles. Horde is an interesting team racing game where there is hunters and runners. The game starts with 1:30 on the clock, and the hunters being placed behind the runners. The hunters can catch the runners by passing them. If the hunters pass all the runners before the time runs up, they win. And if the runners stay in the lead, then they win. Now, admittedly, this is an interesting twist on a circuit race, but honestly, at the end of the day, your goal in both modes is to just stay in first, so it really doesn't add that much more to the gameplay, but it is nice to mix them in with circuit races. Figure 8 Racing is exactly what it sounds like. Each map in this mode is indeed a figure 8. Now there may be some hills, valleys, or even jumps added in, but ultimately, one map's not going to be all that different from another. Not to say this isn't a fun mode to race in, but there's not a whole lot of variation. Best Trick is basically an offspring of Freestyle. You get points for doing stunts the way you normally would, but now on the right side of the screen, there is a set of 3 randomly generating tricks that can be performed to add to your multiplier. To get the highest score, you're going to want to mainly focus on doing these 3 tricks. Now, I certainly don't find this mode to be as fun as Freestyle, but every now and then when I want to mix it up, this is a perfectly fine mode for just that. Extreme Head-to-Head and Freestyles are basically just those modes, but as outdoor events, making the modes extreme. Now, while there is certainly more variety to the Extreme Head-to-Head maps, I think the Extreme Freestyles is where this concept really shines. In general, I find these maps to be more fun to play on as opposed to their stadium variants. These maps are generally larger and give opportunities to do much bigger jumps, leading to much bigger combos. Additionally, unlike the stadium freestyles, there's a lot of stuff to smash, sort of making this a successor to Steel Titans 2's Time Destruction. Ultimately, this is my favorite game mode in Showdown, and even today I'll find myself going back to these maps, going for new high scores. Then finally, we have Showdown's boss battles. Starting out with an opening cinematic cutscene, you will be racing against a boss truck in order to unlock them. These are essentially circuit races with a little extra twist, because not only do you have to win the race, but you also have to get enough points through smashing stuff, doing jumps, and good driving. All in all, this is a neat little concept of a game mode that adds a little spectacle to unlocking a new truck. Physics. Quite possibly the most important aspect of a Monster Jam game. While most of the older games have more arcadey physics, there's a lot of fans out there that want some realistic Monster Jam gameplay. And do either of these games bring that? No. While I would argue that these games out of the entire Monster Jam game series probably do have the most realistic physics, that's not exactly saying much. Both games overall do feel very floaty. I would say this is more the case in Showdown. Like, sometimes it really does feel like you're up there for an eternity. Now, in terms of the way it feels to do stunts in these physics, I'd have to say Steel Titans 2 takes the cake. Balancing your truck on 2 tires both in a stoppie, a wheelie, or even a bicycle just feels much more rewarding and like you're actually doing something in this game. Showdown kind of babies you into all your stunts, which for a new player might be a good thing, but for someone like myself that's played hours and hours of these games, I'd like a bit more of a challenge. Now when I say it babies you into these stunts, what do I mean? If we take the bicycle stunt for example, if you begin to kind of get yourself in position to have your truck on your side two tires, the game sort of locks you into a bicycle. Like even if you weren't really trying to go for one, it will force you into a bicycle. And it doesn't even really feel like you're balancing yourself. Like in Steel Titans 2, it is really hard to stay in a bicycle for more than a few seconds without falling over. You have to actually balance yourself to stay up. But in Showdown, you can even hold yourself in a bicycle for hours if you want to. And again, overall this might help new players out, but it really doesn't feel like you have full control over your truck. Now of course physics also apply to racing. Obviously you're not going to be going for stunts, intentionally at least, but making sharp turns, drifting, and hitting obstacles is a much different experience in both games. In Steel Titans 2, if you hit a rock or an obstacle, you're going over. Hit a jump at a weird angle, same thing. And if this happens, more than likely you're going to get passed by every single computer. And sure, you could argue this is a skill check, but when you're playing this game for the first time against computers that know exactly what they're doing, it's not exactly the best experience. As someone that's been playing this game since it came out, I've gotten better about avoiding obstacles and taking turns, but for brand new players, it's gonna be a struggle. Showdown to me feels like the more beginner-friendly type of game. Sure, if you drift too hard, you can spin out. And if you hit an obstacle, you might get tripped up a bit, but it's not going to be anywhere near as punishing as Steel Titans 2. Next up, we're going to talk about both games' maps. And frankly, I think this is an area where Steel Titans 2 clears Showdown. Steel Titans 2 has 17 real-life stadiums represented, some of which even include multiple track layouts. And then you look at Showdown, which only has 3 stadiums with a handful of track layouts. And need I mention, these stadiums are completely made up. For fans that bought this game wanting an authentic Monster Jam experience, this was a huge letdown. And even if you don't care that Showdown's maps are made up, there's just not that many. Plus, a stadium's different track layouts oftentimes just kind of feel the same. When I'm playing, I can hardly tell one track layout from another. Now in terms of cross-country racing maps, the games do have a fairly similar number. But even here, I'd have to say Steel Titans 2's maps feel much bigger and different from each other when compared to Showdown. And I think a lot of this is due to Steel Titans 2 having such a big open world to work with, giving them a variety of different areas to turn into racetracks. In contrast, Showdown's cross-country racetracks feel much smaller and linear. And I guess for some people that might prefer more straightforward map design, this might be preferred. But for me personally, I'd have to say Steel Titans 2 has the better tracks. Campaign. Steel Titans 2 starts you off with 21 chapters of the world career. A chapter contains 2 stadium or arena events, as well as 1 cross-country event. By the end of these 4 events, if you place 3rd or higher, you get to unlock the next chapter, as well as a brand new monster truck. Sometimes completing chapters also unlocks new worlds to explore. There is also a New Game Plus version of World Career, which is apparently a bit harder. I'll be honest, I didn't notice any difference when I played. Big Show features the Arena and Stadium Championships. These championships only feature the freestyle, 2-wheel skills, head-to-head, and time destruction modes. So no circuit or waypoint races. And of course there is the Big Show Plus, which is supposedly a little harder. I still don't see the difference. Now, on top of the main campaign, there is a bunch of collectibles to unlock. Some of these even include truck-specific world secrets, which usually have some kind of fun or unique effect tied to it related to the truck. So, I'd have to say Steel Titans 2 has a well-sized campaign, which could mostly be said about Showdown as well. Here, you have the desert, Colorado, and Alaska, all featuring a variety of events, and in this campaign mode, you get to choose exactly which event you'd like to do. And after doing a certain amount of events in one area, you'll unlock some more in another. In some ways, I do like the freedom that Showdown gives you to just choose whichever event you want to do. But I do like how Steel Titans 2 kind of laid things out like a real Monster Jam event, where you have racing, you have two-wheel skills, you have freestyle, and it's all in one stadium. Now, one clear downside to Showdown's campaign is the lack of collectibles, because again, there's no open world. But one added bonus is that you can complete secondary objectives on events, which could be something like taking a certain amount of shortcuts in a race, or getting a certain amount of points doing a donut in a freestyle, just something kind of random like that. Now, Showdown's criteria for unlocking trucks is a lot more varied than Steel Titans 2. Unlocking a truck could require anything from doing a certain amount of events in the desert, getting a certain amount of points doing a wheelie, or even something like customizing your profile. In some ways, I do like this system more because you can actually target which truck you'd like to unlock by making sure you complete its criteria. Whereas in Steel Titans 2, if you want to unlock Gravedigger, for example, you're going to have to wait until the later part of the world career. All in all, the games do take a fairly similar amount of time to beat, but with Steel Titans 2's extra collectibles, as well as maybe just being a slightly harder game, it might take just a hair longer. Multiplayer. These were actually the first two Monster Jam games to ever receive online multiplayer. And I've probably had some of the most fun I've ever had playing these games online. But there's just one problem. The online for both games is dead. Truth be told, both of these games' servers were kinda dead on launch, but nowadays you have to be extremely lucky to find anyone online unless someone's streaming the game, like myself. But let's say you get into a Steel Titans 2 game. What can you expect? Well, there's three main online modes: Explore, Versus, and Race. The first option lets you explore the open world with up to 6 players. Versus lets you do freestyle, two-wheel skills, head-to-head, and time destruction, with one other player. Finally, Race covers waypoint races and circuit races with up to 6 players. Showdown's online modes include Racing, Jam, and Rivals. Racing, of course, covers most of this game's racing modes. Jam has Freestyle and 2 online exclusive game modes, which I kind of forgot to talk about earlier, those being Treasure Hunt and Survival. Treasure Hunt's a team-based game where you collect a bunch of trophies, bring them back to your base, and whichever team has the highest amount of points based on the amount of trophies they brought home before the time runs out wins. Survival is a battle royale. You just run into the other trucks to deplete their health, and last truck standing wins. Rivals covers 1v1 modes, like head-to-head and best trick. There's also a party-only match option, which lets the party leader decide exactly which game mode and map everyone's gonna play. Overall, I'd say Showdown has a bit more variety in its playlists, that is, if you can find anyone online. Also, I forgot to mention, Showdown even has cross-platform play, which is something that Steel Titans 2 lacked, but even that was not enough to save the online. Both games do have 2-player split screen, which is a bit of a letdown compared to some of the older Monster Jam games, which did have 4-player split screen, but nonetheless, if you have a friend over, this can be a fun time with both games. Trucks. At each game's respective release, they both had the largest amount of monster trucks ever seen in a Monster Jam video game. Steel Titans 2 debuted with a whopping 38 trucks, which is a very respectable number, but admittingly, This is one area where Showdown blows Steel Titans 2 out of the water. Now sure, Showdown did debut with 40 trucks, which is only a slight increase from Steel Titans 2. But when you consider the 26 trucks that were added as DLC, which we'll talk about more later, as well as the 140 different skins that are available for the trucks, it quickly becomes clear that this game is the bigger bang for your buck when it comes to trucks. And now we're going to talk about truck upgrades. Steel Titans 2 has a system where the more you play as whichever truck, and especially the more you win with that truck, the more you level up. Leveling up upgrades your engine, transmission, suspension, tires, and chassis, and this maxes out at level 26. Now if you're going to be playing as just a handful of trucks the whole game, then this is a perfectly fine system. But if you've been playing through the campaign mode with your level 26 trucks, and then suddenly you unlock a new truck you want to play as, you're going to have to go back to level 1 acceleration, turning, speed, and it just doesn't feel very good. Given that the way the game organizes the trucks is based on what team they're on, I think making it where if you play as a truck that's in a certain team, then you level up the entire team would have been a better system. Now, Showdown also kind of has its own upgrade system. Unlike Steel Titans 2 though, it is not anywhere near as consequential. Basically the way it works is, each specific truck gets a specific stunt or set of stunts that it gets bonus points for doing during freestyles, extreme freestyles, and best tricks. Well, you can level this bonus up to level 3, at which point you'll receive even more points for doing the stunts. If I had to pick between these two upgrade systems, I'd go with Showdown, just because I think Steel Titans 2's affects gameplay a bit too much, and if they are going to make it affect gameplay that much, they should have made it easier to upgrade every truck. Now, of course, we gotta talk about graphics. Steel Titans 2 is honestly a beautiful game. The lighting and shadows in some areas are just perfect. Especially when you factor in the free cam, you can get some beautiful shots of your monster truck. And I want to just highlight specifically how good Alien Invasion looks with these green lights. I think this truck specifically is a great example of how good this game's graphics are. And then when you look at the same truck in Showdown, okay, I'm not here to trash Showdown's graphics. It honestly is a pretty solid looking game, but I think it just lacks some of the fine details that Steel Titans 2 brought. Like for example, when your tires would come to a stop in Steel Titans 2, you could see the dirt or the sand or the grass or whatever kind of fly up, which is something that Showdown does a bit too subtly for me, and the trucks just don't have that same level of shine and lighting and all that Steel Titans 2 covered. Again, not a bad looking game, certainly not a deal breaker, but if you were gonna buy one game solely based on how pretty it looked, I'd go with Steel Titans 2. Music. I think a lot of people would associate Monster Jam with like heavy rock music or even metal, but oddly enough, both of these games stray away from that a bit. Steel Titans 2 does have rock music, but a lot of this rock music is also infused with electronic music. But ultimately, it is a pretty solid soundtrack that I think works pretty well for a Monster Jam game. Now, Showdown's music kinda sticks out to me. On the menus for the game, you have trap and hip-hop music, with dubstep being featured in-game, which made me feel like I was in some kind of Sigma TikTok edit. I ended up turning off Showdown's music pretty early on into my first playthrough of the game, and hey, there might be people out there that do enjoy this kind of music, but it just wasn't for me. Overall, I'd have to say Steel Titans 2 has the better soundtrack. DLC. Honestly, Steel Titans 2 did not have much DLC. We got one truck pack that included 4 DLC, inverse designs for trucks, a second pack which also had an inverse truck. That was it. Now, the Steel Titans 2 Twitter actually did say they were going to release more DLC in the future, but this never came into fruition. It seems like any further updates for this game were scrapped pretty early on. Showdown, on the other hand, got both paid and free DLC. 5 trucks were released as free DLC, as well as 7 paid DLC packs, which contained a handful of trucks. Furthermore, Showdown had the Aloha expansion, which brought an entirely new environment to the game. Though it did lack a new stadium, this area brought us several new extreme freestyle and head-to-head maps, as well as Circuit Race, Horde, and Figure 8. The pack also has 5 DLC trucks, which is the most of any of the DLC packs. So clearly Showdown had the better life cycle when it came to DLC. Price. At full market value, Steel Titans 2 is currently worth $30, while Showdown sits $20 higher at $49.99. While I would say Steel Titans 2 is currently fairly priced, $50 for Showdown might be a bit steep. That said, when Steel Titans 2 goes on sale on Steam, it can go for as low as $7.49, with Showdown going as low as $12.49. So if you're not in any rush to get these games, I would wait for a sale. And with that, we've gone over every major aspect of these two games. There's definitely pros and cons to both, but I will say, after making as much content around Showdown as I have in the last year or so, I've really started to appreciate Steel Titans 2 more and more. Showdown may have more modern online features, trucks, a better combo system, and general quality of life features, but Steel Titans 2's open world, which allows you to play around and collect world secrets, along with its more rewarding physics, makes what many would argue to be a better Monster Jam game. But I want to hear from you. For those of you that have played Steel Titans 2 and Showdown, what do you think is the better game? Let me know down in the comments, leave a like on this video if you enjoyed, subscribe for more Monster Jam content, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.